Welcome back. The panel is here. NBC News national security and Pentagon correspondent Courtney Kube, Geoff Bennett, co-anchor of PBS NewsHour, Matt Gorman, former senior communications advisor for Tim Scott for America, and Jen Psaki, host of Inside with Jen Psaki and the former White House press secretary. Thank you all for being here. So, Geoff, let me have you kick it off. You heard from those voters in Michigan. 2 of them are undecided. Yeah. How concerned should the Biden campaign be? How concerned are they?
There is legitimate reason for concern. President Biden's re-election hopes hinge on his ability to resurrect the coalition that elected him in 2020. And as we saw from your conversation with those Michigan voters, that coalition is softening and in some cases splintering. And I think you could make the argument that the biggest hurdle this president faces is that Democratic base voters in battleground states give him low marks for his handling of the economy. And that's a conundrum because even as the economy gets stronger, historically low unemployment, high consumer confidence, inflation in this country is easing faster than it is in other parts of the world. There are parts of the electorate that don't feel that, and they're not seeing it. So President Biden has to find a way to sell his agenda, to soften a lot of the discontent, the disillusionment, the questions about his age. Bottom line, though, I can tell you that campaign officials believe that if it's a choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, voters will break for Joe Biden because of Donald Trump's authoritarian impulses, the GOP's position on abortion. That might not show up in the polls, but it has shown up. It's been borne out in previous elections.
Jem, what about that? I mean, how concerned are you? Heard Congressman Dingell say, hey, I sounded the alarm bells in 2015 and 2016, and I'm sounding them again.
Yeah, look, I think that if you're in the Biden campaign right now, you need voters to feel a couple of things. One, you need them to be scared of Trump being reelected. It's actually good for them, for these polls in some ways, to instill some fear in Democrats and wake them up. But you also need people to be energized. And what we saw in that fascinating focus group you just did in Michigan is that people are a little scared. I'm thinking of the trans woman who was talking about the impact of a Republican being reelected, of Trump being reelected. But they're not energized. And this fear of people staying home is something I hear from Democrats over and over and over again, of young people staying home, of base voters staying home, of people not being energized. So, yes, the economy, they need to run it to a draw. That's what the Biden campaign needs to do. But they also need to get people energized around issues like abortion, around the threat of a Trump second term, around a range of things that's going to get people off of their couches and out to the polls.
And, Matt, what are you hearing inside Republican circles? Because some folks I speak to tell me, look, inflation's coming down. There's a real chance that by Election Day, that divide that the voters are talking about, where they don't feel that the economy is getting better, could start to turn a little bit of a corner.
It's certainly possible, but at least for right now, that chasm is so big, whether it's not just cost of living and inflation, it's the housing market. The lady talked about trying to buy a car. All of those markets are so illiquid, it's hard to actually finance those things. You see it every day, and so Republicans are going to press that advantage as much as possible, because in their mind, we've gone from, Bill Clinton's "I feel your pain" to Joe Biden's essentially telling you your pain isn't real. And I think with immigration, as we talked about there, coming off the trail with Tim Scott, that is such a huge issue, not just in border states, not just in border counties. Debbie Dingell talked about fentanyl. This touches so many different counties in America. By Biden taking a deal, if one is offered, that's a huge general election help for him. It really means a lot.
I agree with Matt. I mean, this is something that the base voters in the Democratic Party will hate and will be outraged by, and there will be a lot of people in the White House who will not love details of this. But in the general election electorate, there is a fear of chaos at the border, border security. It's a real issue. It doesn't mean it's entirely valid, but it's a perception challenge.
Court, let's talk about this potential deal, because Ukraine is a big piece of it. I talked to Senator Lindsey Graham about it. President Zelensky was here trying to make the case. I mean, how desperately do they need this aid? Give us the reality check and what came from that visit.
They need it. I mean, in a word, they cannot win the war without this continued aid. There have been some small tactical gains, even just this week, actually. We saw that the Ukrainians were able to push into an area in the east of the Dnipro River. That'll give them the ability to bring supplies, equipment across the river throughout the winter. Small, hard-fought, costly tactical gains, but it will take many of those before we really see any kind of a breakthrough here. And the reality is, the U.S. has been giving them $44 billion in aid and equipment since the invasion, and we're still seeing a war of inches at this point. And it's been a very difficult realization, but we're even starting to see some wavering support among senior military officials, publicly Absolutely not. They are still all in for Ukraine. Absolutely. Privately, they are starting to talk about the fact that this is a stalemated war, and even with this extensive amount of support that the U.S. has been giving them, they still are not seeing any major breakthroughs.
Such a significant revelation. Geoff Bennett, there is also, of course, this impeachment inquiry that has been opened up. Could President Biden use this moment to try to galvanize his base around him? And could it backfire against Republicans? What are the politics of this?
He certainly could. I mean, the risk for Republicans is this. Never before in the history of this country has a presidential impeachment inquiry moved forward in the absence of credible evidence. And that is what House Republicans are doing. Typically, House committees do the investigative work on the front end. They find evidence of wrongdoing, and they move on from there. That's not what has happened here. And so the risk for Republicans is that come Election Day, they are seen focusing on the wrong things, not focusing so much on the economy or immigration, but on what could potentially be a meritless impeachment. The risk for the White House is that it becomes a distraction.
Jen Psaki, you had this surprise press conference by Hunter Biden this week. Did it help or did it hurt?
Look, I think if you're sitting in the White House right now, you're like, please, Hunter Biden, we know your dad loves you. Please stop talking in public. This is not helpful to any of them for him to be out there. But at the same time, the president loves his son. That takes precedent over anything else. That is appealing. I'm thinking of the woman in your focus group who talked about family. He loves his son. He loves his family. He's worried about his mental health. But yes, the White House would like him to probably go away right now.
Matt Gorman, could this backfire if Republicans don't find the smoking gun? Lindsey Graham said there isn't one yet.
I think that Republicans need to continue to take their time on this. I think they need to continue to emphasize that this is not articles of impeachment. This is merely an inquiry. The biggest difference between now and 98 with Henry Hyde, to your point, Joe Biden isn't elevating this. He's not using this to rally Democrats around him. That's a very different thing between then and now.
Not yet.
We'll see. Court, the world is watching. Here we are, 2 foreign wars. How do allies and enemies to the United States watch the divisions play out here?
And the U.S. has been increasingly more isolated on the world stage in the wake of what's been happening in Israel. October 7th, the entire world rallied behind Israel. But as we've seen this continuing humanitarian suffering, lack of food and water in Gaza, continuing strikes and ground offensive by the Israelis. I mean, even this week, we heard about 3 hostages who were killed by IDF soldiers. Israelis are going to investigate that, of course, but that is putting growing and mounting pressure on the U.S. to really call out Israel. And we saw that this week with Jake Sullivan's visit, and we'll see more of it with Secretary Austin.
We sure will. Thank you all. Happy holidays. Great conversation.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.